Coloradan studying dating violence gets her funding pulled, so she's going head-to-head with the federal government.
The reality is there's just not the support without the federal funding.
Families near an oil well blowout still haven't gone home 6 weeks later. They're being told the cleanup could take 5 years. Let's fund some scholarships for first-generation college students in every corner of Colorado. There are far more deserving students than there are funds, and we're going to do something about that. And an interesting idea on 3 wheels to give older folks a front row seat to outdoor adventure.
Like they say, wind in your hair, and I also add bugs in your teeth because you're always smiling.
Hold on, this could get strange, but if you wanted boring, you'd be somewhere else. This is next. A researcher in Colorado is suing the largest source of funding for medical research in the world. If you're thinking that sounds like burning a bridge, trust me, friend, that bridge got torched already. It is a smoking heap. But now this researcher wants the National Institute of Health to make good on its funding pledges, despite President Trump's promises to cut medical research. Our Jaleesa Arizari has the story.
At CU Colorado Springs, flyers for a canceled clinical trial pile on a desk a research assistant will no longer use. A harsh reality researcher Dr. Heather Littleton struggles with.
There was a small part of me that thought it was coming, but a larger part that was hoping that we would be spared, but just devastation.
2 months ago today, on campus, Littleton got word that her NIH grant would be canceled effective immediately. She was halfway through a 3-year clinical trial for LGBTQ teens and their parents that focused on dating violence and alcohol use prevention. But Littleton didn't take that news lightly.
Absolutely not.
She and 15 other researchers across the country are suing NIH to get their grants back. They claim cutting this money is discriminatory and illegal.
We'll see what the court says, but certainly they are responsible for following the law.
Pelicanos is Littleton's attorney. They say $800 million worth of grant funding focused on LGBTQ issues was cut.
And the stream of people affected, definitely in the thousands.
But the impact goes beyond this one lawsuit. CU Boulder's administration says 56 sources of federal funding have been impacted, including at least 5 NIH grants. In 2024, 67% of the campus's research funding came from the feds. Back in the Springs, the impact of a clinical trial is not lost on Littleton.
In fact, one of our teens who just finished the program said that they left their abusive dating relationship as a result of being in our program.
Positive results that yield mixed emotions.
Just really proud of my facilitators, but also just really sad that this program can't continue unless something happens.
Dr. Littleton says she tried scraping together some funds to try and get those enrolled in the study what they were promised. She says there are no existing evidence-based violence prevention programs for LGBTQ teens. So without this study, those programs won't develop or exist.
So often, researchers are first trying to gain the trust of a population so then they can work with them to get knowledge to hopefully help everybody.
Yeah, Dr. Littleton says this is a massive setback in that sense. They worked really hard to get these 6 families into this clinical study. It was hard. They have issues with the government, mistrust, fearful of sharing any information with a research study that is connected to the government. So all of that hard work now wasted.
All right, well, let's keep an eye on that lawsuit and about 100 others, but please keep us updated. Jaleesa, thank you. Colorado's Republicans in Congress are all on board with their party's budget plan that would cut Medicaid and food benefits to deliver tax cuts. But there are some holdout Republicans on the far right of the party who are delaying the plan tonight. They want even more spending cuts. The House Rules Committee started debating the bill at 1 a.m. this morning, while most of America was asleep. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office says the Republican plan would increase the federal deficit by $3.8 trillion over the decade, as cuts to Medicaid, rental assistance, and food aid are more than offset by increases in military spending, immigration enforcement, and the cost of those tax cuts. Governor Jared Polis is part of a group of Democratic governors talking about the bill's changes to Medicaid, which would aim to shift the cost to already cash-strapped state budgets.
There's not money there at the state level. They're basically asking states to do their dirty work for them and terminate people from their health care coverage if they cut federal funding. But it's not just about state flexibility. It's about making states into the bad guys who have to cut off care.
Governor Polis pointed out today what critics of the Medicaid cuts have been stressing, that denying people health care coverage for preventative care just eventually pushes them into emergency rooms where they can't be turned away, and then that cost is passed along to everybody through higher insurance premiums. So, Denver has a mayor, and in a way, almost like two mini mayors, because 2 of Denver's 13 city council seats are elected citywide, just like the mayor. They're powerful positions. They're supposed to listen to everybody, and yet some voters skip out on voting for those seats altogether, perhaps out of confusion or just lack of interest. Our Marshall Zellinger explains some ideas to change how those citywide seats are won.
The city of Denver has 13 council seats. 11 of them cover specific districts of the city, about 65,000 people each. 2 of them cover the entire city of 700,000 plus.
I am a Denver City Council member at large.
Sarah Parody is one of those 2. Serena Gonzalez Gutierrez is the other. The 2 of them won their at-large race in 2023 by being the top 2 vote getters in a race with 9 names to choose from.
My husband definitely only voted for me. Sorry to my wonderful colleague, Councilmember Gonzalez Gutierrez.
The instruction says vote for 2. 93,000 people voted for 1 or none. That's more than 1 in 4 citywide voters who undervoted.
The current system is incentivizing people to waste their second vote.
Councilman Kevin Flynn, who represents a district in southwest Denver, has a proposal to make the at-large seats 2 separate races, requiring at-large candidates to choose to run in one or the other.
Last time around when we all ran, there were no incumbents. And so you would have been waiting to see who declares first for seat A, and then who declares first for seat B, and then which of those people do I think I want to challenge. That's nuts.
You pick the race you want to run in. That's how it works. That's not a problem. That's a feature, not a bug.
Flynn's proposal would have to pass council and then have voters decide, since it would change the city charter. In 2023, when both at-large seats were open without an incumbent, Parody finished second. There's no runoff for at-large, so she was elected with 16.6%, 42,700 votes, which was 500 more votes than Mike Johnston got to qualify for the runoff for mayor.
You know why? There were 17 people running for mayor. Durr.
Is that D-E-R, D-U-R? Flynn will have competition, perhaps, for voters to change how elections run. Parody is a supporter of ranked choice voting. We've talked about this a lot. That could perhaps solve the issue of electing someone with 16%. Ranked choice, Kyle, is the process where you rank your candidates by preference. If no one gets 50% when the first choices are tallied, the person who finished last is thrown out, and the people who voted for that last place person get their second choice tallied until you get someone or someones with 50%. But that would also need a charter change and voter approval, too.
If we go to ranked choice voting, your entire job will be explaining ranked choice voting over and over and over again. Marshall, thank you. People living in Douglas County can vote in a special election next month to eventually give county leaders more power. District judge denied a request this week to stop that election. The idea has bipartisan opposition. There's a lawsuit from Democratic State Rep Bob Marshall, former GOP County Commissioner Laura Thomas, that claimed that the all-Republican Board of Commissioners in Dougco violated open meetings law to put this idea on the ballot, said that they met more than a dozen times without notifying the public. The judge ruled that the meetings were cool because they didn't discuss policy making, they just talked about administrative and legal stuff. The judge also said that stopping an election in progress would sacrifice the public's right to vote. So next month, Dougcoians or Dougcoites, whatever you want to call folks who live in Douglas County, will be able to vote on whether to create a charter commission. If that passes, that group puts a home rule charter on the November ballot. We'll dive deeper into what that means on a different day. It's graduation season. It is a season of joy and pride in the accomplishments of our students. Families celebrate, especially families whose future changes with their first college graduate. So let's fund some scholarships and send more of those young Coloradans to college tonight. This week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports the Latin American Educational Foundation, LAEF. For more than 75 years, generation after generation, that nonprofit has been making college possible in Colorado, changing the trajectory of families across our state through the potential unlocking power of a college degree. 80% of their scholars are first-generation college students. 75% come from low to moderate income families, and they hail from every corner of Colorado. 1 in 3 are from rural parts of our state. LAEF scholarships renew each year following the student through graduation, and they come along with one-on-one success coaching. And these scholarships are matched dollar for dollar by many colleges and universities across Colorado. That incredible amount of support and these individual students' drive to succeed, to make their families and communities proud, that's why LAEF scholars graduate at a higher rate than Colorado's average. So this year, that nonprofit has more than 600 applicants with plans to add 41 new scholars to their ranks. It's a lot of unrealized potential, right? So that's where we come in. They are going to expand their current class of scholars this year based on whatever we can raise together. Those dollars will make an immediate impact to send kids to college. So say we raise $40,000 and you do that quite regularly. That is 13 more families in Colorado getting the phone call soon that their student will be an LAEF scholar. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get that link to donate. You have proven that even $5 adds up fast. As always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us rolling. And there are 5,000 of you who have signed up to make a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. You put in your info once, and each month your donations automatically split among all the nonprofits we feature. It means that these recent micro-giving campaigns have started with more than $30,000 in donations.
This is a major problem because the health and well-being of people are at stake.
New review shows Colorado's oil and gas companies are not being straight with people about the chemicals they're pumping into the ground. And while they can't pedal anymore, some older Coloradans are finding a way to get on the bike and back out in nature. Next. There are families living near the site of an oil well blowout in northern Colorado who are not currently living there. They haven't been able to return home. More than 6 weeks ago, that Chevron oil well in Gailton up in Weld County went Old Faithful for a couple of days. 14 families evacuated, only 5 have returned. The state expects the complete cleanup to take 5 years because they have to keep sampling and testing the ground until it meets environmental standards. The state says Chevron has already removed 7,000 cubic yards of soil and 89,000 barrels of liquid. Chevron says they believe that the families nearby should be able to return home in the coming weeks. Speaking of the stuff that spews when an oil and gas well goes kablooey, a recent review found that more than half of the state's new fracking sites are still operating in secrecy. A law that went into effect 2 years ago requires oil and gas companies to disclose info about the chemicals that they use for drilling and extraction. A coalition of environmental groups reviewed more than 1,100 new fracking sites, and they say that only 40% of those sites are in compliance with the new law.
We really felt it was important to know what is going down the well, what chemicals are going down the well. And the pushback that we got was, these are proprietary formulas. We couldn't possibly disclose the contents.
Law requires that oil and gas companies also declare that they are not intentionally using the chemicals called PFAS, so-called forever chemicals, the stuff that can accumulate in the human body. The Colorado Energy and Carbon Management Agency, the regulators who are in charge of enforcing this, would not talk to us in an interview, but did acknowledge that the law is not being fully complied with.
A mild, breezy spring day, tracking a couple of isolated showers on the far eastern plains. Should be a beautiful sunset just after 8 o'clock tonight. Just enough cloud cover to make it interesting. We have a relatively quiet weather pattern until the holiday weekend. Then afternoon storms return to the picture. Temperatures above average in the mid-70s today, but we're headed for the mid-80s by the end of the week. Thankfully, the wind is let up downtown, but still pretty blustery from Cheyenne back to the northern Front Range foothills, all part of this little weather system kind of clipping northern Colorado tonight. Heavy thunderstorms in the northern plains and Midwest, but only isolated showers on the I-76 corridor, moving really quickly to the southeast. The severe weather threat remains south and east of us from Wichita to Memphis tonight and tomorrow. Temperatures will stay comfortable after sunset, dipping into the mid-60s. We'll see highs near 80 tomorrow, into the mid-80s Friday, and then afternoon thunderstorms make a comeback Saturday. Sunday, the coolest day of the holiday weekend with a good chance for rain. A little drier Monday, but still have to watch for storms after 2 o'clock.
At our age, when you're kind of, just in the background all the time, makes you feel important and worthwhile.
Some older folks in Littleton are right up front again. Wind in their hair, bugs in their teeth. You want a guaranteed way to feel good? Help somebody. You want to let all of us feel good along with you? Let our Mike Grady come along for the ride.
Thanks, Barb.
And we're off. Okay, goodbye.
Fun trips usually start in boring spots. This one rolling from a parking lot and through Littleton.
So how often do you guys go on rides?
Bev and Ed Winters
As often as we can.
have been on a 7-decade tour together.
We've been married 72 years.
Then I'll have to take that one out and see if I can test drive it.
The nonagenarians are getting a pedal assist from Susie Schreiber, a volunteer with Cycling Without Age Littleton.
Cycling Without Age is an opportunity to give people who are seniors or people who have disabilities that can't ride a bike anymore the opportunity to ride a bike.
We were quite avid bikers when we were young, and this gives us a little bit of chance to have, as they say, wind in your hair.
Wind in your hair, and I also had bugs in your teeth because you're always smiling.
Every time you're on the trail, whoever sees you, people are waving and smiling, and it just gives everybody an uplifting experience.
This is not their typical weekly cruise along the South Platte.
Thank you, but it's not really true. We were just married.
We just want to celebrate being good human beings together, and every day is a blessing, so here we are.
Barb Lotz with CWA surprised the couple.
Thank you.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you,
sweetie.
Mwah.
At our age, when you're kind of, just in the background all the time, makes you feel important and worthwhile.
And this is your ring to give to your husband.
This part of the journey means so much
You may kiss the bride.
to these lovebirds.
Okay.
Another stop along the way of Ed and Bev's ride together.
Here's to celebrating your beautiful love story.
For next, I'm Mike Grady.
All right, that was super fun.
That's great stuff. And our Mike Grady will tell a story on a bike any day we let him. Marissa has feedback. I'll have it for you next. There's a nonprofit that's been finding untapped talent hidden in plain sight all across Colorado for 76 years. That's how long the Latin American Educational Foundation has been helping students get to college, most often first in their families to go and graduate. And their scholars graduate at a higher rate than Colorado's average. LAAF got more than 600 applications this year, and they currently have the ability to add 41 new scholars to their ranks. They're going to turn around our donations into additional scholarships, more kids getting the call that they got a scholarship and that they're going to college. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491. Some love for the women up next. A text. That Jaleesa Arizari is a keeper. Love her reporting. I agree. Smart, compassionate, thoughtful, finds stories that other journalists might miss. I'm with you on that. Patrick writes in to say that Angeline McCall did a superb job anchoring Next the other night, said just gets better every day, looking forward to seeing her for years to come. I agree with that as well. We are very fortunate to have a talented team here and appreciate you writing in with your well-deserved kudos for them. We'll see you next time.